So episode 4 of Peacemaker has dropped on HBO Max. That means we're halfway through the season, and I want to let you know my full thoughts on it. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your thoughts on the first 4 episodes of Peacemaker. As we go into this, I'll share my spoiler-free thoughts at the beginning of this in case you haven't seen the show and want to just know my general thoughts, and then I'll go into spoilers in the back half of the video. As a point of reference, I reacted to the first trailer when it dropped, and I kind of enjoyed it, but I wasn't totally won over by it, and it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of buzz for it, so I really wasn't sure how much I was going to cover the Peacemaker show since my excitement level for it wasn't all that high, and it didn't seem like all that many other people were that interested either. And then they dropped the first 3 episodes, and they're actually really good, and I wanted to spend a lot of time talking about them. So here we are to spend some time talking about them. Also, the reason I didn't do more coverage last week is because I was out sick with COVID, feeling better now, so trying to play a little bit of catch up. And let's get started with my general thoughts on the first half of the season, or the first 4 episodes. And as I alluded to just a second ago, I thoroughly enjoyed the first 4 episodes of this show. And before it started, I really wasn't sure how this was going to work, because coming out of the Suicide Squad with what Peacemaker did, how he was written, how he was treated in the third act, he comes off like a very irredeemable character that you just can't possibly root for in a TV show. And very quickly, once this show started, it had such a distinct James Gunn flavor to it, and very quickly they were able to find ways to contextualize the behavior of his character and also show his reflections on it, how he felt about what he did, that pretty quickly changes your perspective on the character and puts all of it in a brand new light, and pretty well immediately won me over. It was funny, but it was also a lot more heartfelt than I was expecting, and it is so distinctly James Gunn. And when I say that, he's one of these writer-directors that actually has a style, both to his sense of humor, to his love for music and dance, as well as his ability to take oddball weirdos and make them totally over the top and crazy, but also still have a humanity. And you get all of that here. And I don't know that I should have ever really doubted this show, since James Gunn wrote the whole thing and directed half of it. But still, I just wasn't sure coming out of the Suicide. Like, Peacemaker, how is this going to work? And then the trailers didn't fully capture what the experience of the show is actually like. So when I started watching it, immediately you get, no, this is another James Gunn property where he's working his magic, and it's all there right from the get-go when the opening credit sequence kicks in. And in case you're the one person planning to watch the show that hasn't watched it, I won't explain exactly what it is. And if you haven't seen it on the internet yet, I mean, he just found a way to turn an opening credit sequence into a classic James Gunn memorable moment that you want to watch on loop. So count me as someone that went in pretty skeptical, that had heard some positive buzz from the people that watched it early, and then it just worked, and they found ways to, like, at the end of every episode, I want to watch the next one, and then we just finished episode 4. It's like, oh, where's that headed? I mean, just really solid, catchy television that entertains, has emotion, and hooks you right from the get-go. And the show people have been comparing it to, kind of in an odd comparison, but it's the Book of Boba Fett. And they're 2 totally different shows, really for 2 totally different audiences, except to say they both kind of fall into the nerd category, and both are on streaming and spin-offs of movies. But as for the actual subject matter, target audience, they're very different, but at the same time, it feels like we were all really excited for the Book of Boba Fett, and we're like, Peacemaker, really? I don't know, what about that? And then I certainly fall into that category of people that have been like, with Book of Boba Fett, like, this just isn't hooking me. I'm not really, like, I like the Star Wars world, but this isn't doing anything interesting for me. And Peacemaker has been the show that right out of the gate, I was hooked. And all these side characters I assumed I wouldn't care about, I was like, well, they're a lot of fun, and they flesh out the story, and it feels very well balanced. Oh yeah, what does James Gunn do so well? ensembles. Of course, he's able to do an ensemble show led by Peacemaker and make you care about the entire ensemble. So, yeah, for whatever reason, Peacemaker's actually, you can't even say for whatever reason, because Jon Favreau's and Robert Rodriguez and Dave Filoni are the people behind Book of Boba Fett. That's top tier talent that have done a bunch of things that I've loved. And then you got James Gunn also over here, and just kind of like, I don't know what went wrong with the Book of Boba Fett, but it didn't go wrong, at least thus far, with Peacemaker. So maybe they'll flop. Maybe they'll flip-flop as we move into the back half of each of these seasons. Book of Boba Fett will just totally blow us away and Peacemaker will fall apart. Who knows? But at the moment, based off the first half of each of these shows, I think Peacemaker is clearly the winner. But it's an odd comparison. It's a silly comparison. It's the sort of thing that people like me argue about on Twitter, even though these two things very much, it's not even apples and oranges, it's apples and cucumbers, like two very different things. So that's my spoiler-free thoughts on it. Let's talk some specific spoilers from the first 4 episodes. And I don't want to dive too much into it, just walk through plots or anything like that. But so it kicks off, and he's healed in the hospital, and gets into a taxi to leave. And I'm like, okay, kind of tracking along with this. And then the opening credits kick in. And I'd seen a tweet from someone being like, I wasn't expecting one of the standout sequences of Peacemaker to be a dance number from John Cena, but there it is. So I'd heard that, but I assumed it was going to be the underwear dance that we saw in the trailers. I thought that was just going to be the running opening sequence for each of these. And so then he drives off in the taxi, and then the song breaks out, and it's him, and the lights start turning on. He starts doing this awkward dance. I was like, oh, wow. I wasn't expecting this. James Gunn, you did it again. You have found some crazy way to have a truly James Gunn experience, even with the opening sequence. And legitimately, I've watched the clip on YouTube daily since it watched, plus having watched it every time I've watched the show, and plus a few more times when I've been like trying to show it to my wife, like, here's how the show starts. She's like, wait, this is the intro sequence to the show? But just such a weird idea that comes from the mind of James Gunn, the same person that went, like, what should we do for, like, the first mid-credit sequence for Guardians of the Galaxy? What if there's, like, just, like, this dancing baby Groot and Drax keeps turning around? And it was James Gunn that actually did the dance that was the mocap for baby Groot and to, the Jackson 5. There's sorts of ideas that, how do you come up with such a specific, weird, great idea? I don't know how you do it, but James Gunn keeps on doing it, and it's such a distinctly him thing.
I always have dance sequences in everything I've ever done.
While this is not remotely the same thing as Dancing Baby Groot, but it's all consistent with who he is. So we kind of go into the episode, and you pretty quickly start to get why he is the way that he is, and you meet his dad, and, he's recalling, his dad's just horrible to him, just saying terrible, terrible things, belittling things to him. And the way that he tries to, like, win over his dad is by telling this funny anecdote about Ratcatcher being tortured as a child. And you're hearing it, and it's like, any normal person hears it, it's this horrible, tragic story of suffering. And to his dad, it's like this belly laughing bit where he's just laughing out loud at this thing. The joke, the dark humor in the moment is like, this isn't funny at all. This isn't remotely funny. And his dad, it's the one thing that he can do to connect with his dad is to tell tragedy as a joke. And then the final zinger to the scene is that the dad puts it together that this was the person that shot him. And so even this thing that was intended to, like, endear him to his dad flips the script and finds it as one more way to, like, talk down to his son. And just thought all of this just made for, like, how do you take this irredeemable character that was horrible to so many characters, killed Rick Flag, and make you somehow see him in a totally different light, and you have him raised by someone that is somehow just an absolute total monster. And so through this, he hooks up with a chick from a bar, kind of leads into that person trying to attack him at the end of it, that sets up the next episode, that it's all fun and exciting as he's just trying to escape this apartment complex. And kind of a classic example of how you don't have to make things exciting just by going bigger and crazier and wilder. You can make something exciting just by having you care about the characters and the stakes and having clear objectives, clear consequences for failure in specific moments. And so there you're able to play things out in exciting ways because you care and understand. You don't just have to go bigger. And that's what this was. He's like literally running around an apartment complex and you care about the individual moments. And there's an urgency to it. And so then like in the command, boss man goes to tech guy and is like, hey, you need to frame someone real quick so he doesn't get in trouble. And in a truly human sort of moment, his brain immediately goes to frame the dad, which is a terrible patsy in this context. Like, don't look at him, look at him, the guy right next to him. Terrible idea that can have dire consequences. But when you're in the moment and it's urgent, you don't have great brainstorming, so you're just gonna, that's what real humans do. And so it feels like an actual mistake that would someone do given the urgency of the moment, that also sets in motion the conflict of the season with the way that it all kind of plays out. So it made sense. And continue on the third episode where they actually go on the mission where they have to kill the butterfly people. And once again, how do you make Peacemaker, who is this person that in the previous movie we saw him like remorselessly kill like a whole army of people playing a game with Deadshot, kills all these people, or Bloodsport, excuse me, got my names, there's all these different Deadshot, Bloodsport, all times, multiple uses for all of them, kind of have the same idea. They go through his village, kill a bunch of people, and he doesn't feel bad about it. And then in the finale, of course, kills Rick Flag, and Rick Flag calls him out on it in his dying moment. And so how do you make things that contextualize his actual actions, and you have him like unwilling to kill a child if he doesn't know why he's being told to kill? Like, what is a butterfly? You want me to just kill a kid and you're not going to tell me why I'm killing a kid? What's kind of going on here? So through it, we kind of understand it's like this invasion of the body snatchers situation, and they end up do get killed through the process, and Vigilante gets kidnapped in the process, and you have a fun torture sequence with him, and Peacemaker's not going to give over to him. He's trying to, is this because he's like doesn't care? Is this because he's trying to do the right thing? What exactly? You see that Vigilante's not crazy about the fact that Peacemaker won't tell him the information. Other fun thing about Vigilante, I didn't realize this at the moment, but then I was, watched the show and enjoyed it, so I started doing research into it and everything like that. So I look up the different characters and see Vigilante is also Adrian Chase, Adrian Chase, wait a minute, from Arrow? So if you hadn't put this together, if you didn't know this, but like season 6 of Arrow, the villain is Prometheus, Adrian Chase, like same character, wildly different characterizations, wildly different contexts. But it's not that I was like, oh, that's interesting. I certainly would not have just pieced that one together because it's such dramatically different context for the same comic book source material. But eventually, Peacemaker comes to realize that what a butterfly is, and we actually see they're like literal butterflies that are doing this invasion of the body snatchers situation here. So in this latest episode, it was very much dad-centric, where Peacemaker learns that his dad is in prison because they decided to frame his father for the actions, and so he goes to see his dad, tells his dad that they framed him. His dad's a terrible person, and so he's going to rat them out. Now, I'm not a snitch, but I'm going to snitch on you. Of course, horrible racist character. And so then Amanda Waller's daughter, trying to like get her team to show that she's worthy to be there with them, decides to trick Vigilante to go and kill Peacemaker's dad, which leads to just some really nice situations as he's trying to do something sweet for his friend, kill his dad, which the crazy morality logic of these lunatics, trying to do the right thing through something horrible like that. And then you have these little moments in there where Peacemaker's dad is a total monster, an actual irredeemable character that through even the revelations of this episode of like how he raised his son, of course, the fact that he's a terrible racist, he's irredeemable, but he's not stupid. And so Vigilante goes in trying to pick a fight with him so he can get in a fight and take him out in that process of the other guy provokes the fight so he can take him out. So all the other white supremacists at the table are triggered by Vigilante, and Vigilante easily takes him out. And White Dragon's like, hey, I'm not following you. We got cameras everywhere. You're going to provoke me into a fight so that you can do something? I'm not going to do that. And Vigilante, not being as smart as him, not realizing this guy's always ahead of him, is like, well, you know, your son, and his dad realizes, wait, my son's trying to get me killed in here to stop me from talking. Like, I need to talk to the detectives. And just like really nice dynamics that makes it all kind of feel earned as to what's taking place, and everything kind of that you realize how much his dad is one of the real villains of the season and everything happening. And throughout this, we also kind of like really get flashbacks of the childhood and whatever tragedy happened to Peacemaker's brother, and his dad blames him, and that's so much what's driving all of this anger, hate towards him. But he was also just a terrible person before all of that. And why is Peacemaker was so terrible in the Suicide Squad? Oh, he was raised by just the absolute worst, but someone that was the absolute worst claiming to have some sort of moral superiority. And then a big final reveal of the season is that the boss man of their little group is one of these butterflies. And I guess the other piece of information we got in there with it was a judo master that said, you don't understand, the butterflies are actually right before he gets shot. And so as we kind of knew all along, there's going to be more to this. If they're getting a mission from Amanda Waller, it's not going to be clear cut and day who's the good guys, who's the bad guys. But what exactly does all of it mean? And then you get to this moment in time that the guy that's in charge of the mission hunting the butterflies is a butterfly. When was he taken over? Was he taken over after we started killing butterflies? More recently? Is he just now taken over and they're trying to, or has this been all along? What does all that mean? I don't really know. But I sure am having a lot of fun with the show. And each episode has some sort of hook that makes you go, oh man, where's that going? Every single time. And even episode 2 ends with the dad goes into jail and there's all these people looking at him. And you know he's a crime fighter, so you're wondering, like, are all of these criminals going to come after him? Because that's what you frequently have when the superhero goes to jail. But no, they're all white supremacists that love this guy. And so it's, like he's super popular amongst this crowd of people despite us all hating him. So anyway, like so many people saw the trailers and went, I don't know about that. I don't know how that's working. And then with each episode, they're nailing the humor, making me care more about the characters. And, you know, the actual invasion plot isn't the most interesting thing about the show. And maybe that's kind of a good thing, that you care so much about the characters, you're invested in them and their journey and their growth, that even the plot of it, while not bad, just isn't the thing that even needs to hook you all that much, even though the twists and turns you do have fun with. So that's kind of where I'm at with Peacemaker after 4 episodes. I believe that's the first half of the season. I don't know if I'll do week-to-week reviews. This year hasn't started the way I'd hoped. It's had a little bit more drama and conflict, or not conflict, but more twists and turns than I was hoping that it would have in a January and setbacks. So I don't know what things are going to look like, but I certainly do plan on doing more coverage of Peacemaker. And assuming this video does well, we could have more even next week. All right, let me know what you thought down below, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.